So I'm going to do photon shading next for Octane, brand new again. So obviously you can see we're working on the panel here. Quite a bit of this we may shorten. Actually, I'll make that full screen so you can see it and enlarge it a little bit. So basically, this is just like an opening panel design. So there's a few things in here which aren't going to be needed for photon shading. We will take those out. And as you can see, this is another one of those panels where we've currently got it as 3 groups. But effectively, again, this is bound to change actually. So on here for the photon shading, you can choose the amount of samples you want. For the rendering. Actually, I'm going to up that a little bit just so on the preview it goes a little higher. But you can also change the ray epsilon, the GI clamp. So as default, the GI clamp is normally set huge. It doesn't need to be for these sort of things, and nor does the ray epsilon. All you're doing is slowing things down by having them really big. There are times when it's necessary to have the ray epsilon higher, but it's very rare. This should do what you need as a default for what it's worth. So we've also got photon gathering radius, photon count multiplier, the exploration depth of the photons, and those sort of things. All of those things are adjustable and controllable. Again, the noise threshold is adjustable and so on and so forth. And we can run this out as a deep image as well if we want. So that's our basic setup. That just goes into our light kernel. You're ready to go. Then everything else is going to be done on the actual surfacing panel of the actual node. It's for the surfacing of the object itself. So what we've got here at the moment is I've got a scene that basically just rotates that round so we can see what happens when you put the photon shading on. And we've got just basically here a rippling water that gives us something for the water to light to refract through to show photon shading as well. Okay, so 2 very, very basic things, although maybe that's not basic, but anyway. Okay, so we click on the surface. As default, there's the standard surface. We've got a specular surface here, and on that specular surface, we obviously can allow caustics, don't allow caustics, and we can adjust things like the refraction index and all those sort of things. So let's shrink that down a little bit. Just bring that up. Okay, so I'm going to attach that to the material. Instantly, you can see we've got glass. I've already pre-shaded this with a little bit of blue in it, just so it's a little bit more noticeable. And you can see straight away what that's doing and how that's doing it, here. So you get the light passing through, excellent, normal ray tracing, okay? So if we allow the caustics, actually, let me turn that on in view. So turn on the caustics, instantly, we've got that heavily now refracting through correctly as caustic should through the glass. Now, there's a couple of bugs in here which are nothing to do with Lightwave. These are things that are being worked on by Otoy. But let's just quickly, let's just put this up. So if I take the dispersion, you may not notice it on this too much, but let's go 1. You start to see the color passing through. So you get like rainbow effects on this, and you can see a little bit of color being passed through here. So, but these little noise blocks here are, need to be remedied by Otoy. It's just a little high and therefore causing noise blocks. However, when you anti-alias it, it does eliminate a lot of that. Not perfectly, but does get rid of quite a bit of it, and especially when it's animated, when it moves, it kind of, you get a lot less of that effect. Anyway, I'm going to turn it off for that one. Let's now rub across and have a look at this surface. So a water surface. So if we were using this here, again, same thing applies. Let's keep off the caustics to start off with. Actually, yeah, I've still got dispersion on, so let's take off the dispersion for a sec. So there's our basic water with light passing through it, all good. So let's first of all put on the caustics. Instantly you can see the effect that's having, and we obviously can adjust the roughness of that. So, you know, if you up that, it will soften that dramatically, but you now could have very soft dispersion, or a hard dispersion, depending on how you actually want that to be. So, you know, if you're doing a swimming pool, you're going to have that much tighter, so maybe 2%. And if it's sort of deeper in the sea, you might be upping that to sort of 5%. But effectively, you've got control over that, and you can animate that over time as well, and envelope that. Okay, so let's add a bit of dispersion on that. So let's go 0.001. Instantly, we can see the rainbow effects happening through the water. And obviously that works with the actual animation. So obviously the update of that, I mean, the dispersion probably is going to slow that down a little bit. So let's take that off a sec. So you can see, there we go, pretty much you're able to see the effect of that, you know, with just a very simple rub through. Obviously, if you add the dispersion, that will slow down that refresh, but it's still super fast. There we go. So again, here, I haven't got the dispersion any longer on that, but effectively that's, you can see that running through. Super fast. So that literally is it for the photon shading. It's unbelievably powerful, super quick to use. I'm going to show one other thing very quickly, but I can't show it fully. I've cannot remember the frame rate, and so I just keep on getting that wrong. I thought it was 30, but I don't think it is. But I'm just going to show you how easy this is to use, and then show you how it is to render. This is the Alembic loader. But I can't rub it through. So just give me a sec. Let me just clear this scene. I'm then just going to go Alembic loader. I'm going to go to my desktop down here, load up an Alembic. We'll just load in water. It's as simple as this. There's our Alembic loader. Now, I thought it was running at 30 frames per second, but it doesn't seem to be rubbing through. So I'm getting an error at that point, but the Alembic has loaded fine. Let me just show you what that looks like when it's rendered in Octane. So this is that same demo there with a cage around it. Sean rendered this out a little earlier for us. Actually, I'll do that full screen. Now, obviously it's going to be jerky at your end, but look. So that basically is a Houdini water with the photon shading, all in Lightwave, easy. So basically, what I might do is I might post that to Giles. Giles, could you post that up so everybody can have a look at it?
Yeah.
Cool. I'll do that for you. I'll do that for you now. But it does give you a really good indication of what that photon shading is going to look like, but also the Alembic loader, how it works. It's really cool. So, and literally Sean rendered that literally today for me, had it ready a couple of hours ago. That's with the white water added as well. So it's got a little bit of the white water in there. And obviously he's put that together very quickly, but you can see that working straight away. You know, wonderful. So,
okay. So here we are back. Just going to do a little dive in just to kind of show you a few things that have been added in the ProGeo, because this is actually where Steve lives. But I wanted to show you a couple of things that's being added. So all I need here, let me just go ahead and open my procedural geometry. I need a spline to start with. So spline geometry. It's one of those things I work, I don't know, you know, you guys probably, I work with 3 monitors. So it's really hard for me to keep everything on one monitor to show because I'm so used to spreading my stuff everywhere. So just what I want to do is I'm going to create myself a profile. So I'm going to drop in these, right click, and let's add some knots. So I can pull this around. Give me a shape.
And if anyone wants to heckle Juice while he's doing this, feel free. He loves being heckled.
Oh yes, I'm all about that. So
Juice? No, I won't. I won't do it.
So what I'm now going to what I'm looking at doing here is I'm going to drop in one of our new ones called lathe. So I'm going to drop in a lathe geometry. So I want to take the result into my let's see. All of a sudden I'm my brain is like, wait a minute, you've been up for how long now? So let's go ahead and add a geometry because that's what we really need.
Probably the most sensible thing we did was to leave the most complicated demos to the end.
Yes, absolutely right. So here we have, this is a lathe that if I take off my offset, just does a straightaway lathe. But as you can see, because of my shape, I can't see the inside. So this gives me the ability to show a second one, thicken. Bring this into here, result into there, result into procedural. And so now I can add some thickness to this. Oh, wait a minute. You don't thicken after you add.
No.
You thicken before you add. Geometry, result. And there we go. So now we have created our thicken. Again, I come back here to my lathe, and with the offset, let's increase this, subdivide, and give us a number of turns, a number of offsets. My view adjusted for me. So just some
instant water slide.
Yeah, instant water slide. And it's funny how many times I've had to do this exact thing in Modeler, and it's a pain. It really is. So anyway, just showing you here some advancements that we are adding. Standard. Well, I say standard, common, or more wished for nodes being able to thicken, being able to give more of the procedural modeling. So yes, Martin, it is a procedural modeling in layout. So what I want to do now is I want to show, this was real fast, simple, but we are adding to our toolbox here in our ProGeo nodes. What I want to do now is I want to talk about one that currently is called HyperPaint. But what I'm going to do is instead I'm going to load up a nice little scene that I've already got pre-baked, right? So we're going to load up my thing here because I want to show you what we've got. So I've got, it's a null called draw with my procedural geometry on it. So let me show you what this is. What this is we've got HyperPaint. Is, again, we're alpha, so it's been called point paint in my UI here. But what this is this essentially is Steve. This is what is tendrils. This is the magic. This is going to drive a for loop because really what point paint does is it allows me to literally draw points in the viewport. It's going to take those and use to draw some geometry to control a spline that is then going to be output here. Not here, but here. Again, we'll have, explanations and all manner of everything's for this, right, Ben? Anyway,
Yeah.
what I'm just going to do here is I took it off of this monitor. What I'm going to do is double click on this to get this up. Now I'll move this out of the way. Turn on paint points. And currently I'm saying to target the item of the ball. So I'm going to draw on the ball and it creates this little spline. And I can draw on the ball and create the spline. What this is doing quite literally is, yes, and content. I just now noticed that. So what this is now allowing me to do is to draw literally, and if I am to rotate here, you'll see that I'm drawing as it's reading that sphere. Now, I have offset from surface, I have resampling, spacing, and et cetera, in order to control this. But what I want to now show you is if I instead, let's target none. I'm going to kind of rotate my space down here, and I'm just going to draw out here. And I'm just going to draw out here. And as we rotate, you see that I was actually drawing on the visible plane that is my viewport. I can come in on the spline geometry itself, procedural geometry, and I have start and end. So as you can see, if I roll my end back and roll my end forward, yes, I can, and this is animatable. It's also texturable. The start is as well. So I could have these literally chasing their tails. Again, radius, we've got textures. So I can bring in a texture here. Everything is being created with a UV map. These have a UV map on them. So I could taper these. I can add different textures. So hey, if I come into a texture here, open up my procedural here, and let's take the UV map and of the spline. Let's bring in a gradient. And let's do black to black, but maybe in the middle here we do a green. Something like, oops, I missed. Something like that. Take this to the color. Take maybe the U to the input. And this I might have to turn on, double click, really? This I might have
Rookie
to
mistake.
Turn on VPR to see. But now I can kind of pull these in. And as you can see, I can even shade these a little bit. I can even, let's take this instead. Let's do an image. Let's load it up. And I know, yes, I could drag and drop, but I'm old school. UV map, I'm not used to it yet. So spline, color into the color. And then all I need to do is, because this is treated as one big, let's see, that was the U, I think it was. And maybe I guessed the wrong way. There we go. So I could even use these to paint roads if I wanted to. Come here, drop this out. I think my computer's being taxed a little bit. Can you tweak the spline after having created it? Well, this is one of the, again, we're alpha. Oh Lord, I just saw that. But what we can do is we can animate. So if I wanted to come in here and I'm not sure here, so paint points. So here, this is one aspect that I hadn't messed around with. I can erase these full strokes, but it is one of the things that has been brought up about being able to come in and edit the points afterwards. But each of these two can have keys. So keyframe stroke. So what I can clear all layers and say on frame 0 we've got this, frame 5 this, 12 this.
While you're doing that, Juice, Alan, would you mind turning your camera off?
So you can see here that I can change these on a per frame basis. So you could do a bit of a keying type mouth animation maybe, or blinking, or any of a number of different variations. This is one aspect of this particular tool. As you can tell, since I am just driving a spline geometry, this opens up a whole bunch of creativity. Currently, this particular spline is only set to one side. If I, increase this, well, then I'm drawing tubes. So as you can see. Create a plane for drawing on? Absolutely. This is one of those things that I could draw. I could, again, free form on surface, be it sphere, be it flat, be it out in space. So there you go. Andy, if you want to, any questions on this particular aspect? This is as far as this particular thing as being like a pencil or a markup or a flat plane drawing. But yes, this has quite a bit of interest, I think.
And there is another demo of tendrils coming up with Andy as well. This is just one bit of it. There's more coming.
This is just one bit of it.